What do these four movies have in common? 1917, Ghost in the Shell, Dunkirk, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. They're all today on Movie Men. I'm Eric Stafford, and welcome to Movie Men. Me and Keegan Matheson will be going back and forth and doing the separate reviews. We're trying to work together in this COVID world, you know. And speaking of the COVID world, everybody's been watching a lot more movies, a lot more content at home, being as they're at home. I know that it did come up at one time. I do, like most people, have streaming. I do stream things. And I know a lot of people were concerned that streaming itself was going to be difficult because so many people would be at home streaming all at one time. I'm getting tongue-tied just saying it. But anyway, those of us who collect physical media seem pretty excited about that because, you know, if you've got something physical, you're playing off your own Blu-ray player, DVD player, it's in your house, you're perfectly fine. Whatever kind of player you got, VHS, going all the way back to Laserdisc, we'll do it all. We've got a little bit of everything here at the old Movie Men set. So we're going to talk about some of the movies coming up. I'm going to let Keegan start it off as he talks about the film 1917.
Hello Movie Men viewers. Me and Eric's going to do something a little different this week. We're going to do our social distancing, safe awareness, all that good jazz Movie Men episodes where we'll basically tag in and do a different movie review. So I picked 1917, which came out in December 25th of last year in America. It came out a little earlier in Great Britain, but anyway, this is a war film. I mean, I'm sorry I didn't pick a lighthearted joyful film. But this was directed by Sam Mendes, who was most notably directed Skyfall, the James Bond movie that Adele did the soundtrack or song for. It was pretty good, actually. So they won 3 Oscars for this movie: sound mixing, visual effects, and cinematography. Most notably, this was filmed in one continuous shot. Anyway, so breaking down the film, we start the movie in northern France along the Western Front. Our main characters are Lance Corporal Blake, played by Dean Charles Chapman, and Lance Corporal Schofield, played by George McKay. So we start out with the Allies in the trench. This is World War I, the war to end all wars. Unfortunately, it did not end any wars, but we start out in the Allies trench at the beginning of the movie, south of the Belgium border. Belgium was a hot spot for Germany because they took it pretty early in World War I. So their stronghold by then was pretty tight in 1917. The whole idea of the movie is to save the lives of the soldiers that were attacking into a strategic trap that the Germans had set up in a coast, which was about, I want to say, a good day and a half walk from where we are when we start the movie. So the general gives the order to Schofield and Blake, and they have to go together to deliver this message, and it's urgent. And if you feel that urgency the whole time, and you don't really know what's going to happen, that's what's the first viewing is really what makes this movie the best, because you don't know what's happening, you don't know what's going to blow up, or because they could easily have gone to the the main characters could have easily gone into no man's land and gotten shot. I mean, just right then and there, and it had been a very short movie within the first 10 minutes, unfortunately. But they were brave, and they went through no man's land, which that is referring to in trench warfare the space in between one side's trench and the other side's trench. but they brave it and go over, and they find the Germans have abandoned their camp. So that's a brave thing at first, and then we follow them continuing on to a coast, and not going to give away any spoilers or anything, but that whole journey is continuous in one shot. We have some downtime. We have some. It may be boring to some viewers, but I feel like the Sam Mendes does a very good job of creating a fantastic film, and one of the best war films I've seen since Saving Private Ryan. 1917 is quite the cinematic achievement, as the Oscars apparently thought so too, with 3 Oscar noms. But the best scene, I think, is one of the battles. The main character goes over into no man's land, and again, you don't know what could happen. He gets shot, he can get blown up. I mean, there's bombs, there's bullets flying, and this is that big battle and final battle in the closing scene, and I feel like that's very it gives you goosebumps, because it's very brave, and to see that even in a movie is pretty special. So again, they have to go to a coast, which is where the Devons were going to attack at sunrise, and that's what they need to warn them about. And Colonel Mackenzie, who is the leader of the Devons, they have to warn him before anybody. And that's what we find, is that some men just want the fight, and just want to fight no matter what the orders are. But this was to save thousands of men. And do they do it? I don't know. You'll have to watch the movie. 1917, directed by Sam Mendes, came out last year. The best movie of 2019. But 2019 is a fantastic movie year. So to say this is the best, I mean, may be stretching it for some folks, but I think it's cinematically the best. I don't know if it's the most rewatchable, but it's cinematically the best in my opinion. One of the best war movies I've seen, so highly recommend this. Another notable actor that's in it, Benedict Cumberbatch. He's Colonel Mackenzie, so he's the, I think the director referred to it as the machine gun character at the end. He needed somebody with a machine gun kind of firepower. Yep, I feel like Benedict Cumberbatch is the one you want for that. So yes, there you go. There's my review of 1917. I hope you watch it. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you do have fun with it. Even though it's a World War I movie, and it's sad in its nature that we have to ever have war, but I think it's a pretty good narrative and a pretty good story. And it continues on in a fun way, an inventive way, and pretty much breaks the mold of what you think, like cuts and normalcy in movies. So, 1917.
Thanks, Keegan. Appreciate that. And now we're going to talk a little bit about a film I just happened to pick up. You know me. You guys know me. I'm like really bad to like hunt movies wherever I go. And even in this COVID world, I was out and about in Walmart picking up groceries and happened to pick up the film Ghost in the Shell. Now, I'd never seen Ghost in the Shell. I'd seen the anime or animated movie back in the day, which is almost 20 years on now. And when the film came out, it stars Scarlett Johansson, and I was a little hesitant because it's Scarlett Johansson and she's playing a character in anime. A lot of people, it got a little bit of a backlash because so many people were upset that it wasn't a Japanese actress playing the Major in the film. The Major is the character's name, and she is a Major of Section 9, and she has a totally robotic body, but she has a human brain, so she is a ghost in a shell. But anyway, this is the current film version that was done by Sony Pictures. It's really well done. It is beautifully done. And I remember not that many people went to the box office to see it. Well, I picked it up in the $5 bin at Walmart, and I'm really happy that I did. It's a really great film. It's some of the hardest acting I think Scarlett Johansson's had to do because she is quiet most of the movie, and she really has to come across as being stoic sometimes and going through a whole emotional gambit of what it's like to be living in a robot body. Of course, she can't feel her hands, she can't feel anything. And then, so what really still makes her human, and she feels distance from everybody. And so it's really quite strange. Now, this copy that I picked up is just a regular Blu-ray. I have recently upgraded to 4K. Thank you, tax guys. Anyway, I recently upgraded to a 4K TV, a 4K player, but this was on Blu-ray for only $5 at Walmart, so I did pick it up. And now I'm really wanting to get that 4K video version of it because the picture was so sharp, and I mean just blindingly sharp on Blu-ray, that I would love to see it on a 4K release. And when I get that chance, I will be upgrading to a 4K version of this because it was that good. It was a lot of fun. Very similar. I mean, it's almost a recreation to a certain extent with a few tweaks and twists from the original anime if you haven't seen it. But I think this is more friendly. I think people will enjoy this more. So I think if you do want to see Ghost in the Shell, definitely pick it up. I give it $5. I really did enjoy the film. I really had a great time watching it, and I really regretted the fact that I hadn't seen it on the big screen. So if you feel the same sometimes about such things, you may feel that way. But it was really a really good adaptation of that. It was done by the Ari Avid. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's the guy that did the original Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire. He produced some of those with Stan Lee for Sony Pictures, and it's really, really well done. Scarlett Johansson can't be beat, and just a lot of fun. International cast. It's really good, and some great special features on here as well. But definitely worth the pick up at $5, or you might rent it at home on your streaming service.
Welcome back into Movie Men. The second movie that I've chosen today is Dunkirk. It's a very similar movie to 1917. It is a war movie, except this one takes place in World War II. This is directed by Christopher Nolan, probably my favorite director, with the Dark Knight trilogy and Inception and Memento and The Prestige, all kinds of great movies. He just makes really good movies, Christopher Nolan. This is his 10th directorial outing, and it came out in 2017, this movie. As you can see, there's Tom Hardy on the cover there. He's probably the biggest star in the movie, unless you think Harry Styles is, who is also from One Direction fame. So a little bit out of his comfort zone, I guess. He's not really a pop star in this. He is a British soldier. So pretty cool. This one actually won 3 Oscars. Pretty big deal. Won Best Sound Mixing, Best Sound Editing, and Best Film Editing, and got nominated for 5 other categories. So tips to filmmakers: if you want to make a Oscar-winning movie, do a war movie, because these movies have gotten a lot of Oscars. Both have 3 Oscars: 1917 and Dunkirk. It's a similar plot to 1917 as far as we're trying to save men. As many men as we possibly can. As the cover states, it says 400,000 men couldn't get home, so home came to them. I feel like that pretty much sums up what Dunkirk's about. It tells the story of the retreat of over 300,000 British soldiers trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk, France, back across the English Channel in what was known as Operation Dynamo in real life. They don't really reference that in the movie, but that's what they're referring to, I suppose. The film tells of 3 different stories from 3 different perspectives. First one is the narrative of Tom Hardy. He was the bomber for the British Army. Royal Air Force is what they called it. He basically has to do it all because his cohorts and co-pilots in the Royal Air Force are outgunned by the Germans, and he basically single-handedly takes on the German army and holds off all the bombers, pretty much so these 300,000 people can get off the island. It's pretty spectacular visuals. I don't know how they did all kinds of crazy stuff, as you can see on the back and the stuff. It's a very visually stunning scenes from up in the sky. It's very nice. It's almost like a video game, I'd have to say. It's pretty great. Yeah, he ends up running out of gas, unfortunately, in the air, and that's pretty tense moment at the end of the movie, but he's able to land his plane. That's all I'll tell you. Nothing more. But pretty cool story from Tom Hardy's perspective. The second narrative we're talking about is Tommy and fellow young British soldiers. He's basically our main character. We start in the streets of Dunkirk with all kinds of German propaganda falling on these men saying, "You're surrounded." And that's why they had to run, and because they were getting shot at and killed. And Tommy was about the only one that made it out alive, and especially in the movie. He goes over the barracks and onto the beach, or barricade, excuse me, and onto the beach with these sandbags. And he's able to get on the boat with a wounded soldier, and he's basically as scrappy as you can be as a soldier trying to get off and save himself. It's sad what happens to other people, but it really is put your own well-being above try to save as many people as you can, I guess, is what they're trying to say as a movie overhaul. But Tommy's really in it to save himself, and he's very intuitive. So on the beach where Tommy ends up, he ends up going onto a freighter, and the freighter is where he meets Harry Styles' character, Alex. And they end up having bread and jam until they get torpedoed, because these big, gigantic boats were such a large target. It was easy for the German soldiers to target these individuals. And that's what makes our third narrative so important. And it was the third narrative of the film follows 3 British civilians in a small private yacht with 2 children and Mark Rylance's character, Mr. Dawson, aboard. They save as many fallen Royal Air Force members as they possibly can, and as many soldiers that can swim to their small yacht. And these small boats are what save most of these men, because they aren't as easily targeted as those big freighters. And that's what the story's about. So home came to them, which basically meant that the British people saved their own soldiers. And they took great pride in that, and this is a very British pride kind of movie. And the story between these 3 individuals, 2 of them are children, and then the older men, too young to serve, and then too old to serve, basically. And he's this grizzled vet, and there's these 2 kids that have never seen war before, and you can see it through their eyes, and it's kind of heartbreaking what happens. And I really won't get into that or why it's heartbreaking, but it's pretty good narrative of the story. As I said, these small boats, these personal ships, still face the threat of the German bombing and naval strikes, but their arrival was undoubtedly the turning point in trying to save these men. The evacuation of about 330,000 people, nearly 10 times the original projection. So when they showed up in their small boats and their yachts, these people that were privileged enough not to have to be at war, I'm sure they weren't expecting this many soldiers, but they were able to transport them back to Britain mainland and or England. Probably my favorite scenes of the movie is when Harry Styles' character Alex makes his way back to the English shores, and there's a man there handing out blankets. I assume he's blind because he doesn't make eye contact with him. And says, "Well done, lads, well done." And Alex says, "All we did was survive." And he says, "Well, that's enough." And I feel like that's basically the idea of the movie, is the survival and what they were able to accomplish. Even though it wasn't a great point for the Britain Army, it's still a pretty positive and inspiring story, because they were able to save that many men. And soldiers like Alex weren't exactly sure how they were going to be greeted, because they kind of failed and they had to kind of tuck their tail in between their legs and go home. But they were just so happy that they made it home, and they had a big party and they had wine and all kinds of festivities, because they were happy that they had made it home safe for the time being. And that was really inspiring. So I picked these 2 movies, Dunkirk and 1917, because they're similar and they're almost apocalyptic war references, but they also have so much hope and every single story that they tell. And I feel like it's important that we put into perspective even now with what the world's going through right now. And thank you. I hope you watch some of these movies. Dunkirk, 1917, two very great solid war movies from World War I and World War II. Thanks for joining us on this review. I'm Keegan Matheson, signing off.
Thanks, Keegan. And now, you knew I was going to do this. Now, Keegan and I both had bought Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker when it came out last week. We were both really excited to get it. I didn't get mine till a little later because I got mine through the Disney Movie Club. Now, a lot of people were like, Disney Movie Club, are you kidding? You know, Well, I'll tell you, I know there's a lot of special editions of Rise of Skywalker out there, but I am a member of the Disney Movie Club, and they go ahead and they send you these things. So they went ahead and sent me this, and I had it coming. I went to Target while I was in Hickory. This is after all the COVID crap. And I went and tried to get a copy, and they didn't have it. So I just went ahead and waited for my regular release to come from Disney Movie Rewards. Had to wait a full week later before I got it. But I got it the next Tuesday, and did get it, and was happy to do so. Now, Target has a special edition that has a gallery book with it and an extra DVD of content, but nobody's saying what's on that thing, so I'd really like to know what is. I probably will still pick that up. Now, Keegan bought the Blu-ray release that's in the Steelbook that was exclusive from Best Buy, and I'm sure he'll talk about that at a later date because it's a beautiful Steelbook. He did show it to me as we were FaceTiming over the phone. He did show it to me. It's gorgeous, and I wouldn't mind having that one either. But you know me. I'm just like every other movie guy. I want them all. Gotta catch them all. But anyway, this is the regular release that they did. The big bonus with being with the movie club is, of course, they sent it straight to my house, which is kind of cool. But then also, their extra was a lenicular picture, which is like a 3D kind of shiny, you see the shiny, picture of everybody from the film that you have Rey and Poe and the other guy, yeah. Anyway, they're all there, and but they're all hanging out in this nice little lenicular thing that you don't get anywhere else but from the Disney Movie Club. So I was kind of cool about that. Now, if you open up the regular disc, of course, we've got the slipcase on here. Gorgeous slipcase. It's got the actual poster that was the Star Destroyer with up against one X-Wing, which I thought was really cool. But actually, the back of it is really nice. It's got like the Star Destroyers with Kylo Ren's face in there as well. And the actual regular DVD packaging, this is for the 4K. It includes the 4K Blu-ray and the digital code, which I already scanned that bad boy in with the Movies Anywhere and all that goodness. But here are the disc. The actual 4K has Kylo Ren on it. The Blu-ray has Rey. And then, of course, J.J. Abrams is on the behind-the-scenes one. But there's Rey for those that want to see the Rey disc. And then also that. Now, like I said, the Target one comes with one more disc that we don't know what's on it because so many people have already picked it up, but we just don't know what's on it. Nobody has said anything yet, and God knows I've been trying to find out. But anyway, this is what it looks like. But if you haven't seen this movie, if you watched this last trilogy, or what we call the Disney trilogy now, and you picked up the Disney trilogy, you gotta watch this one because it really is an enjoyable film. It's got a lot of feels in it. There's a lot of great things that happen in it. And rounding out this trilogy, which was shaky after Last Jedi, J.J. Abrams kind of goes behind him and kind of undoes some of his stuff without really undoing it. But he undoes it. He fixes it. So he fixes the trilogy, and it takes a long time to do this. This movie is just under 3 hours, but I really enjoyed it in the theater, and once I saw it again, just this last weekend, I was so happy and really enjoyed it yet again and thought it's a great film. Carrie Fisher is in it, and they used footage from her from the first movie, Force Awakens, in this trilogy, and they used footage from that to round out her story. But it's got a great story. They bring in Lando, a lot of good stuff. Richard E. Grant is in it, which I love Richard E. Grant in just about anything. And to see him in the behind the scenes stuff, he talks about, it's like being a kid on a play set and he wants to push all the buttons and nothing works, but he's pushing all the buttons. And he just said it was a childhood dream come true for him and people of our age, that grew up with that first Star Wars. It really is. And so you do feel his excitement and the cast excitement as well, but you also feel their little bit of regret is this is the last one in this series, and so they don't know if they'll be back or not. Now I know that right after the film finished, they were already talking about doing new films with Rey in them, and spoiler. But anyway, they were talking about doing new films with her, continuing her story a little bit. But it's a lot of fun. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to have a good time. They actually let them do one-liners like they did in the original Star Wars movies, which is so much better. So to have them be a little sarcastic and smarty is what kind of made it in the first place. But if The Rise of Skywalker is out, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, it's available practically everywhere. So if you want to pick it up or see it, be prepared to put in the time. It's 3 hours long, but you're going to have a good time, especially if you've seen any of the Star Wars movies. There'll be something that will appeal to you. So that about does it for us today. I would like to say, take care of yourself, stay at home, look after yourself and your family, and may the Force be with you always.